Welcome. I'm Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. And it's once again time for FOMO Friday. We love to bring you the stories of the week here on the podcast every Friday. Of course, we also have podcasts on Monday and Wednesdays, of course, of every week. But Fridays, we like to take a little bit of time and we like to go over a number of stories throughout the week that you probably should know about, particularly from a Christian perspective. But you're probably not listening to propaganda media anymore, and you definitely don't want to have that fear of missing out. So we bring you those stories so you don't have to have FOMO. Well, of course, the biggest story of this week is probably, I would have to say, the revelation that former President Biden, Joe Biden, has cancer. It's actually prostate cancer. It's in his bones, in fact. We're not going to cover that extensively here, other than just to say we are going to cover it more in depth in a podcast coming up, because basically we've been lied to, and we kind of knew that all along. But this right here is definitely evidence and proof that we were lied to about President Biden, about his health, about his cognitive health, about a lot of things. And this just again is another evidential piece of evidence that shows that we were lied to, and we'll cover that more in depth. We don't really have time for it here on FOMO Friday, but we're definitely going to get into that in the near future. Well, from the Daily Wire comes this very first story here that we are going to get in depth with, and that is that prosecutors have charged Elias Rodriguez with federal and local counts relating to a terror act in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday evening. This story is kind of sad, to be honest with you, and it kind of makes me mad as well. But Rodriguez, 31, allegedly shot and killed Israeli Yaron Lischinski, who was 30, and American Sarah Lynn Milgram, who was 26, outside an event for Jewish professionals at the Capitol Jewish Museum. Now, the victims were soon to be engaged, which is just, I guess, makes it even sadder. But and they were members of the Israeli embassy staff. The suspect will face 3 federal counts: murder of foreign officials, causing the death of a person through the use of a firearm, and discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence. He has also been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, according to the FBI affidavit. Rodriguez admitted to killing the young couple to police, according to the FBI. Quote, Rodriguez spontaneously stated on scene to MPD, quote, I did it for Palestine. I did it for Gaza. I am unarmed. Now, Rodriguez was holding a red scarf identified by a witness as a kafia, which, if you know Muslim type stuff, you'll know what that means. And as MPD officers were escorting Rodriguez from the museum, he shouted, Free Palestine. He started chanting that. Free Palestine, free Palestine. And so, again, you kind of know his motives, but Rodriguez walked past the couple several others before turning around, pulling a gun from his waistband and shooting the 2 in their backs, according to the affidavit. Milgram, the woman involved here, attempted to crawl away before she was shot several more times. Here's what the affidavit says. It says, quote, once the decedents fell to the ground, Rodriguez is captured on video advancing closer to the decedents, leaning over with them with his arms extended and firing several more times. As Milgram attempted to crawl away from Rodriguez, he followed behind her and fired again. After a brief moment, Rodriguez appeared to reload his firearm. At the same time, Milgram sat up, and once he reloaded, Rodriguez fired several times at Milgram, according to that affidavit. Now, interim U.S. Attorney for the District of Washington, Janine Pirro, condemned the shooting as a horrific crime and said that more charges against Rodriguez may be coming. Quote, violence against anyone based on their religion is an act of cowardice. It is not the act of a hero. It is the kind of case that we will vigilantly pursue. That's what she said at a Thursday press conference. Anti-Semitism will not be tolerated, especially in the nation's capital. We are going to continue to investigate this as a hate crime and a crime of terrorism, and we will add additional charges as the evidence warrants. So let's see what Democratic Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota had to say about the killings. I'm sure she condemned that, don't you think? Or at the very least, she sent condolences to the families, right? No. Instead, she said, quote, I'm going to go for now, unquote. Yeah, that's what she told a reporter. I'm going to go for now. Yeah, something, these guys are just incredible. So who is the shooter and why did he do this? Well, obviously he's part of the violent left. We've talked about that on the podcast. There is definitely a violent left. The left is increasingly more and more violent. And when you see these shootings, you see these murders, you can pretty much predict that it's a leftist that did it. Now, the terrorist who killed the two Israeli embassy staffers was once affiliated with the Party of for Socialism and Liberation, as they call themselves. It's a leftist group linked to a Chinese Communist Party funding networks that have been repeatedly contacted by sanctioned Iranian state media. The shooter was quickly identified in a picture on a 2017 article posted on the liberationnews.org site. That's the media wing of the Party for Socialism and Liberation, the PSL, as they call themselves, where he was at a protest holding an anti-capitalist sign from the Answer Coalition, ANSWER, Answer Coalition. According to a report by the network Contagion Research Institute, the NCRI, both PSL and Answer leaders have ties to foreign governments, including China, Iran, and Russia. The report states that Answer operates under the fiscal sponsorship of the Progressive Unity Fund, that's PUF, as they call themselves, which has financial and personal ties to Laville Roy Singham, who's a pro-CCP financier in Shanghai. An anonymous X account, and I use the word anonymous really loosely here, because it's believed to belong to Rodriguez, shows an extensive history of anti-Israel and far leftist rhetoric, including videos of now deceased Hezbollah leader Saeed Nasrallah, who he's the anyway, he's long gone now, but he retweeted a post after 2024 presidential election that stated, "Don't blame me, I voted for Hamas." On this site, about 1 hour before the shooting, a manifesto was posted on the account titled "Escalate for Gaza, Bring the War Home." Well, the manifesto's author wrote, "Humanity doesn't exempt one from accountability," and said that many Americans may view action, in quotes, as the only sane thing to do. Yeah, they said that the manifesto said that, in a funny twist, these murders basically are the only thing that is sane to do. So yeah, very, very unfortunate, but again, and we're going to cover this as well in the near future. Just another example of how violent the left is, and it is a violent left. But let's get on to maybe a little better story, and still coming out of Washington. Top conservative voices are calling on the United States Senate to act immediately to end federal funding for Planned Parenthood, citing concerns not only about the massive number of abortions that the group facilitates every year, but also the abortion giant's promotion of transgender hormones. In a letter exclusively obtained by the Daily Wire, former NCAA athlete Riley Gaines, detransitioner Chloe Cole, Live Action founder and president Leela Rose, whistleblower Ethan Hyam, Ethics and Public Policy Center president Ryan Anderson, and other prominent life advocates remind the Senate that the language to defund Planned Parenthood is currently included in the big, beautiful bill that is going through Congress. That, by the way, the House did pass by one vote and sent it to the Senate. And if the Senate has the guts, they say, they will write and it will keep and pass the provision. So basically, the Senate can do what they want with the bill, and they can take the provision out. This group is saying no, leave it in. It is one that passed the House, and it should stay in. It is an unusual coalition merging pro-life leaders and individuals who are outspoken on the harms of transgender ideology, and the culture wars of the past few years have really united many Americans who, heretofore would have considered themselves on opposite sides of many political issues, actually, particularly abortion, as they fight to protect the innocence of children. Here's a quote too. It says that today, Planned Parenthood is the second leading provider of transitioner hormones in the nation. That's what the letter states. Quote, Live Action's latest undercover report has revealed a horrific reality. Planned Parenthood facilities across the country are prescribing life-altering cross-sex hormones to minors as young as 16 years old without requiring therapy, a mental health evaluation, or prior documentation. And that's, we just did a podcast on that one. It also points out that Planned Parenthood is the nation's largest abortion chain, responsible for killing over 400,000 preborn babies each year. Now, by expanding into the gender transition industry, it compounds its record of harm by pushing sterilizing drugs on minors for profit, is what the letter states. And it also says that while committing these atrocities, Planned Parenthood received nearly $800 million annually in taxpayer dollars, a staggering figure that should alarm every American. Now, another concern for activists involved with the letter, Planned Parenthood's involvement in sex education in public schools. The abortion giant has a well-documented history of crafting sexual education materials about gender ideology and sexuality that, according to the leaders writing to the Senate, are designed to funnel our children into the organization's highly lucrative abortion and hormone treatment pipelines, unquote. Well, Congress must no longer allow this child abuse to continue. No organization that profits from the destruction and mutilation of children should receive a single cent of taxpayer money. And during a White House press briefing on Thursday afternoon, they were asked White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt whether the president is committed to ensuring that the provision to defund Planned Parenthood stays in the big, beautiful bill as it passes through the Senate. And this was her answer. She said, the president has maintained a very clear commitment to ensuring that this administration and the American people's taxpayer dollars are not funding any institution, that includes hospital systems, that are funding the chemical castration and manipulation of children. That's what Leavitt said. She said, we are not going to tolerate taxpayer dollars going to such efforts. So again, we're going to watch this. Hope that that provision stays in the big beautiful bill and it gets through the Senate and is of course signed by the president. Well, one of the things that we've been covering here on the podcast is a Supreme Court looking into the charter school program for Christian schools. And there was a kind of a finalization of that. I wanted to bring that to you this week. A deadlocked Supreme Court on Wednesday upheld a decision blocking an Oklahoma Catholic school from participating in the state's charter school program. That's unfortunate, right? It was actually a 4-4 decision. And that decision upholds the Oklahoma Supreme Court's decision to ban the Oklahoma City-based Saint Isidore of Seville Catholic virtual school from being eligible. And it was unclear how the justices voted, but Justice Amy Coney Barrett recused herself from the case. We're not exactly sure why. She didn't say. She may have known someone involved in the case or whatnot, but that's where it came down to the 4-4 decision. The case pitted the Catholic school against Oklahoma Republican Attorney General Gentner Drummond, who sued the school after the state's charter school board voted to approve the school's participation. Drummond argued that allowing religious schools to take part in the program would force taxpayers to fund schools with religious beliefs they did not support. Quote, the Supreme Court has ruled in favor of my position that we should not allow taxpayer-funded funding of radical Islamic schools here in Oklahoma. I am proud to have fought against the potential cancer in our state, and I will continue upholding the law, protecting our children's values, and defending religious liberty, Drummond posted on X. Represented by Alliance Defending Freedom, the ADF, the school and the charter board argued that Oklahoma discriminated based on religion. And again, you can't really argue with that. It's definitely a thing here. Oklahoma parents and children are better off with more educational choices, not fewer, said the ADF chief legal counsel, Jim Campbell. He said, while the Supreme Court's order is disappointing for educational freedom, the 4-4 decision does not set precedent, allowing the court to revisit this issue in the future. And the U.S. Supreme Court has been clear that when the government creates programs and invites groups to participate, it can't single out religious groups for exemption. And we will continue our work to protect this vital freedom for parents and students. A win for St. Isidore would have struck down a provision of the Oklahoma Charter School Act that expressly forbids religious charter schools and could open the door for more religious charter schools across the country, of course. In previous decisions, such as the Trinity Lutheran versus Comer case, the Espinoza versus Montana Department of Revenue, and even Carson versus Macon, the Supreme Court sided with religious organizations that had been locked out of the state's programs based on their religious nature. In Carson, the Supreme Court struck down a ban in Maine on vouchers from going toward religious schools. So, yeah, that was a good one as well. Well, during oral arguments, several justices on the court's conservative wing appeared to side with the St. Isidore school, while the liberal wing, of course, signaled strong opposition. Shocker, right? Quote, you can't treat religious people and religious institutions and religious speech as second class in the United States. That's what Justice Brett Kavanaugh said, adding that excluding religious schools seems like rank discrimination. Well, yeah, it's kind of because it is. Anyway, so a little bit disappointing there, but we'll keep an eye on how things are going with that. Kind of a surprising, I guess I don't know if maybe it's not surprising to you. I don't know. But President Donald Trump defended Afghan farmers during an Oval Office meeting the other day with with South African President, and I'm going to just butcher his name, but Cyril Ramaphosa, I believe is how you pronounce his name. Trump played a video of alleged incitements to violence after Ramaphosa rejected claims of white genocide. The video included a clip of Julius Malema, a member of the South Africans National Assembly, singing "Kill the Boer" at a political rally. And of course, that's a reference to Afghaners. While the video played, Ramaphosa looked away from the screen and visibly uncomfortable, of course, while Trump looked straight on at it. And the video also included footage of what Trump claimed was a gravesite of 1,000 Afghaner farmers. Ramaphosa said that he had never seen the site, but would like to know where it is. Sure, we don't believe you. Trump also held up articles that he said showed proof of the genocide against the Afghaners. And he said, quote, I don't know how it can get any worse, Trump said. Ramaphosa responded to Trump, raising concerns about the "Kill the Boer" chant and claiming that it was said by minority party and was not representative of the government. Quote, when they take the land, they kill the white farmer, and when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them. Well, yeah, that means that you endorse it. That's what Trump said. And Ramaphosa responded to that, claiming that black people are also killed by criminals in the country. And Trump, of course, had to come back to that too. He said that the farmers are not black, Trump said. The people that are being killed in large numbers, and you saw those grave sites, and those are people that loved ones are going on a Sunday morning. They told me to pay their respects to their loved ones that were killed and their heads chopped off. They died violently, and so he's not letting the South African president off the hook there, right? Well, Ramaphosa, being diplomatic, asked if, hey, can we discuss this away from the press? And the meeting comes amid controversy over Trump's administration welcoming, of course, the Afghan refugees to the United States, alleging that they are victims of race-based genocide, which, of course, they are. Tensions between the two countries have increased following the passage of the South Africans Act, where it allows the South African government to confiscate land without compensation. So just take it. If they want to take it and you're white, and the government can just take it from you and they don't have to compensate you in any way. Trump issued an executive order in February saying that the act ignored citizens' rights and enabled the government to seize ethnic minority Afghaners' agricultural property without compensation. And the directive cut aid or assistance to South Africa and declared that the United States would promote resettling Afghan refugees. Now, Ramaphosa denied that the Afghaners' land is being taken away during the meeting, and he pointed to his South African agriculture minister. His name is John Steenhuisen, who is white, and claimed that the majority of white farmers want to stay. And Steenhuisen said that he joined Ramaphosa's coalition government as an opposition party to keep the anti-white politicians out of power in South Africa. Quote, why wouldn't you arrest that man, then, Trump asked, pointing out that Malema was inciting violence by calling for white people to be killed. And the Trump administration accepted 59 farmers who arrived to the United States on a charter flight earlier this month through an expedition program. The Democrats have denied that Afghaners are being persecuted for their race and have criticized the Trump administration for resettling the refugees in the United States, which is rich, is very rich. When you basically not basically, when you provide an open border for anybody and everybody to come into this country for the last 4 years, and then you criticize Donald Trump for allowing 59 South African farmers to come into the country, you've given up your ability to criticize Trump on that. That is rich. Trump's, of course, pushback on those criticisms last week said that the refugees happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me. And of course, Secretary of State Marco Rubio doubled down on the Trump administration's beliefs that Afghaners are being persecuted by a Senate hearing on Wednesday, when he said that these are people whose farms are burned down and they are killed because of their color, because of the color of their skin. Rubio asked that the farmers added that the farmers qualified for refugee status because they live in a country where farms are taken and land is taken on a racial basis. So all of this is just the aftermath of Desmond Tutu. I don't know if that name rings a bell or not, but there was a time when it seemed like the whole world was calling for the release of Desmond Tutu. He was let out of prison there on the demand of the world, and they said that the apartheid was responsible for the racism, and this guy was a great guy and all this kind of stuff. Well, he wasn't a great guy. He was a communist, and Tutu then instituted racism against whites of the country, and that still remains today, and that's what we're seeing here. So letting him out of prison and all this kind of stuff did not solve any kind of racism type stuff whatsoever. Well, moving to our next story, again, it comes from the column of "See, I Told You So." The Biden administration was aware of potentially deadly side effects associated with COVID vaccines and chose not to alert the public about the risks for months. This, according to a bombshell Senate report obtained by the Daily Wire and others. According to the report from the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations, officials knew as early as February of 2021 that the vaccines were associated with myocarditis, the inflammation of the heart muscle, and pericarditis, which is the inflammation of the thin sac surrounding the heart. Still, they waited to warn the public until June as they pushed the vaccines on Americans, of course. The report concluded that the U.S. health officials knew about the risks of myocarditis, downplayed the health concerns, and deliberately delayed informing the public about the risks. Senator Ron Johnson, he's the Republican from Wisconsin, who chairs the committee and will lead a hearing on it later on, told the Daily Wire that Biden officials delayed reporting the side effects because they were concerned about vaccine hesitancy. Yeah, I mean, how insane is this, right? They know that the vaccine has these, in some cases, deadly side effects. They do not tell the public about the deadly side effects. Why? Because they're concerned about vaccine hesitancy, people not taking the vaccine. Well, of course they might not want to take the vaccine because it might be deadly. I mean, come on. Oh, if we told people it would kill them, they might not take it. Mm-hmm. But in being concerned about that, they violated the inviolable principle of informed consent, is what Johnson said. Of course, yeah. If you don't know what you're taking, if there are side effects that you don't know about, you're not told about, then you don't have informed consent. You just give your consent, and you've not been informed in order to make an informed decision. The federal government was very well aware of the myocarditis signal, particularly in young men, as early as February of 2021, Johnson said. In late February, a CDC official named Lori Markowski Markowskowitz, who co-led the vaccine safety technical work group, or VAST. Yeah, I think you probably remember her. She sent an email concerning the draft minutes and summary report of the VAST call this week, as they put it, and stressed that all VAST documents and communications were confidential. Well, according to that email, the call included an update about nearly 1,000 deaths, 1,000 to VAERS following vaccination. Notably, the email said that in the cases where the cause of death was known, it was often cardiovascular. There have been 19,536 VAERS reports, both of Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine, and that's including 1,287 reports of COVID-19 disease after vaccination, and 980 deaths reported to VAERS. Of the death reports, 470 were from long-term care facilities, where known, the cause of death was often cardiovascular. Now, Israel rolled out the vaccinations quicker than the United States. So Israel health officials saw adverse effects sooner. And the report states that the Israeli Ministry of Health notified Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, officials of large reports of myocarditis, particularly in young people, following the administration of the Pfizer vaccine, unquote. Now, Johnson said the report failure to warn how federal health agencies downplayed the risk of myocarditis and other adverse effects following COVID-19 vaccination, well, documents this apparent cover-up in over 2,400 pages of achievements, which largely derive from Freedom of Information Act type requests, the FOIA requests. Quote, for a number of months, they were talking about these things. At some point in time, they actually internally said, quote, is there a signal of myocarditis, a safety signal? And the answer was yes. That's what Johnson explained. He said, and yet, a couple of days later, they decided not to issue a warning on the Health Alert Network. That's the HAN network. Rather than provide informed consent, the federal health agencies, the Biden administration, covered it up. They downplayed the signals. Now, the report notes that the Biden White House distributed talking points to top U.S. health officials, including National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Director Dr. Anthony Fauci, you remember him, right? And downplaying the risk of myocarditis. Rather than provide the public and the healthcare providers with immediate and transparent information regarding the risk of myocarditis following mRNA COVID-19 vaccination, the Biden administration waited until late June of 2021 to announce changes to the labels for the Moderna and Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines based on the suggested increased risks of myocarditis and pericarditis. Even though CDC and FDA officials were well aware of the risk of myocarditis following COVID-19 vaccination, the Biden administration opted to withhold issuing a formal warning to the public for months about the safety concerns jeopardizing the health of young Americans. And an exclusive summary of the report notes that Johnson's committee was effectively stonewalled by the Biden administration when requesting these documents, seeking transparency. And under the Trump administration, that changed, right? So they weren't going to do anything about it. But then under Trump, they said, "Oh yeah, you can have these." Well, you know, sometimes we like to end on a funny one or whatever. I just couldn't do it today. This is just way out there, and it needed to be covered, and it needed to be covered pretty extensively. A lot of heavy stuff this week. Sorry about that, but I don't make the news. I just bring it to you. But I would love to hear from you on it. And of course, you can always do that at uncommonsensepodcast.com. We're on YouTube. Would love to have you subscribe, give us a like and shares. And thank you for listening. This podcast is a production of Morganite Communications.